And they're essentially using the training camp to get into shape instead of really just what a training camp should be in terms of an MMA aspect. I'm not an MMA coach, but I can tell you it's fight camp, not fat camp.
Okay.
And unfortunately, that seems to be the norm, at least up until this point. And I think, again, that's where a lot of the danger comes out of just big ebbs and flows in weight, whether that's dropping weight too quickly or gaining weight too quickly after a fight.
Weight cutting, hydration, and nutrition can make or break a combat sports athlete's performance. So what does it take to get that right? Today, I sit down and talk with Eric Pena, a top performance nutrition coach, break down the science behind fueling combat sports athletes, cutting weight safely, and helping optimize performance to win championships. Whether you're a fighter, a coach, or just someone curious about the nutrition aspects and the business of it in combat sports, this one's packed with some game-changing insights from one of the best in the game today. And if you're enjoying this, make sure you follow Eric Pena across all of his social medias at pena.performance. And always really appreciate everyone's support on my content. If you can, please subscribe, like, give us a follow, drop a comment down below. Now, Eric Pena, let's get it. Welcome back to Fight Capital, where we enter the ring of combat sports business. I'm your host, Ryan Rapaport. Today, I am excited to be joined by Eric Pena. He is a performance nutrition coach out of Florida that has worked with many top athletes in combat sports, people like Dustin Poirier, Kayla Harrison, recent karate combat champion Shazib Ryan, and has been doing some amazing work. So I'm super excited to talk with him today. Thanks for joining me today, Eric. How are you and where are you joining from?
Oh, good, man. I'm here in Miami, Florida.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, obviously we were talking just some of the recent work you've done. I threw out some names there, but I'm just curious, like, how did you find your way into the nutrition and performance side of combat sports?
So, I mean, I guess I wrestled back in high school, and I guess that's where I was introduced to weight cutting and I guess the dangers of the mishaps, the way not to do it, if you will, right? And from there, my curiosity just kind of grew. I followed a lot of guys in the industry who were, I guess, starting this niche of the business, if you will. Mike Dolce, George Lockhart, Dan Leith, guys like that. And I eventually got in contact with George Lockhart. We went back and forth. I went to get certified, and ever since then, he kind of got me on the staff. I worked under his wing for about 3 to 4 years, and here we are, man.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, you've done some pretty big cuts. Kayla, maybe one of the most impressive ones I've seen. I follow her closely and just seeing. I've stood next to her in an elevator before, and she looked like she could rip my arms off and beat me with them. Yeah. Sorry, she could. Yeah. And so to see that she was making it down to 135 was, shocking. But talk to me a little bit about how, working with athletes like a Kayla or a Shazib or a Dustin. I mean, all of these people, they bring different things to the mix. I'm just curious, how do you tailor those nutrition plans for those athletes in different sides or even different parts of combat sports?
Yeah, I mean, again, each of these individuals have made it to where they're at, not just because of their nutrition. I mean, they're hardworking, dedicated individuals that, again, when they kind of lock in on something, whether that's training or their diet or a certain fight, learning or understanding a certain move, right? I guess their their ability to hyper focus and lock in on these tasks really make them who they are. There isn't necessarily much of a difference in terms of how I need to tailor their nutrition plans, other than maybe one has to focus on a certain thing. Like maybe we have to focus more so on weight loss as opposed to performance as we start to approach a camp, or vice versa. Maybe when they're out of camp, they're able to, again, focus on fueling to perform, fueling to recover efficiently, so that they're able to get their reps in and understand how to develop whatever they're working on in the gym, and just make sure that they're fueling in order to, again, progress and move forward instead of, again, just staying stagnant. And that's why, again, they're at the top and they've been at the top for so long.
Yeah, man, and you touched on something quickly in the beginning there, but the safety aspect of it. I also wrestled in high school. I never had to cut weight. Luckily, I wrestled heavyweight, and but I had some friends who did, and definitely did not do it the healthy way. And that's always like my concerns with weight cutting in combat sports. But can you just talk to me about some of the strategies that you use to help the fighters cut weight safely?
I think a lot of that really, I guess, can be funneled into the preparation and how fighters prepare. Unfortunately, a lot of what I've seen in the industry, and things are starting to change as education and things like big weight cuts start to come into light. Is that a lot of these athletes wait until they're 6, 8 weeks out until they get a fight to really start their diet, start their training, and they're essentially using the training camp to get into shape instead of really just again what a training camp should be in terms of an MMA aspect. I'm not an MMA coach, but I can tell you it's fight camp, not fat camp. And
Right.
unfortunately, that seems to be the norm at least up until this point. And I think again that's where a lot of the danger comes out of just big ebbs and flows in weight, whether that's dropping weight too quickly or gaining weight too quickly after a fight. Whether that's coming in unprepared and, you've got a lot more body fat than you're used to, or again, maybe you're freaked out. You've kind of started to deplete yourself before even coming into the weight cut. And now you have to come into a weight cut even more depleted, right? There's a lot. There's a lot of strategies that can be implemented earlier on in the camp, in my opinion, to make a weight cut safer, as opposed to the later into the camp you get, or either later into the weight cut you get.
Well, I know hydration's a pretty big factor there, particularly when it like people's internal organs and whatnot. Can you just talk to me a little bit about the role that hydration plays in not just the athlete's performance, but how you're managing it throughout that whole process?
Yeah, so I mean, hydration it's huge in terms of athletic performance. I think it's 1% dehydration can lead up to a 10% decrease in physical performance. Whether that's increased heart rate or increased body temperature or decreased muscle function. These are all things that can be affected by hydration status. And the more dehydrated you are, the more, again, that's going to affect your performance through those mechanisms. And it's also going to affect your health, obviously. Um, so yeah, I mean, hydration is it's key. I mean, throughout camp, especially, but and leading up to the fight week. Um, that's where it's most important. Obviously, as you get into fight week and we start getting closer to um the weigh-ins, I guess that starts to become a more of a priority in terms of dehydration over hydration in order to make weight. But obviously, the less we have to put on that, the healthier and safer and the better for their performance it'll be.
Well, you mentioned getting certified through George Lockhart, and there's Mike Dolce, who I'm a big follower and believer of, and obviously they're both of those guys' success. But what type of education is out there, and how are you staying updated on that latest nutrition research to help benefit your clients?
Yeah, so again, networking and just kind of getting in touch and asking questions and again, rubbing shoulders with the George Lockharts, with the Charles Stolls, the fight dietitians, right? There's a lot of big guys in the industry that, you can learn a lot from. Also, the ISSN and the UFCPI are two, I guess, big body organizations that tailor their specific studies and their specific articles and everything towards sports performance. And again, the UFCPI obviously specifically towards combat sports. And there's other online resources like PubMed that again, textbooks. There's a lot of resources that can kind of give you, I guess, more so of a concept, and you take that concept and plug and play into the right situation.
Yeah, and you mentioned the UFCPI. I know that they're doing a lot of research as well, and they'll even come in and say like, "Hey, you shouldn't be at this weight, or maybe you can make this weight." So it must be pretty cool to have those type of resources, especially with your clientele. But as a small business owner, how do you balance the demands of running this business with providing all this personalized attention to each athlete, specifically because you have a global client base as well?
I mean, to be honest, it's a lot of like just being flexible to like the business part of things. I'm still kind of hitting my bumps and my growing pains and all that in terms of, tax structure and all that good stuff. But again, it's just I try to make myself as widely available and as give as much of my knowledge as I can to the people who come to me for that, and I guess let the rest unfold, and let the accountants handle the accounting, and the attorneys handle the law, and I'll handle the nutrition.
Well, I mean, I guess you're also having to market yourself out there, and I see that you train or done some training at ATT and some other places as well. Have you faced any challenges in marketing your services out there, or does the work speaks for itself and they find you? How does that work?
I mean, it's a little bit of both. I mean, I think some challenges that I guess you can consider marketing challenges are really just finding guys at the right time, right? Whether it's, they're too early in their camp and they feel like they don't need to focus on their nutrition, which again, that's kind of a downside in the way of thinking if you're trying to think like a professional, in my opinion. Or you get them kind of too late and they're kind of just like, hey man, I'm doing all these crazy um
Hey everyone, just want to take a quick pause here to thank you so much for all the support. I've been seeing really awesome growth lately, and as I continue to meet new people and find new avenues to tell stories for this combat sports business world, I really would appreciate if you could give me your feedback on the posts as well as like, comment them. Please give me a subscription and follow me across all platforms. Links below, and really looking forward to putting out amazing content here in 2025. Now, if you wouldn't mind just doing me that favor, really appreciate it. Now back to the content.
throwing shit at the wall and see what sticks, to try and make weight. And then also just kind of making sure that guys know that, handling their nutrition, not only the 8 weeks that they have the fight, but year round, and understanding how to place a priority on performance, and enhancing your performance every bit you can. I think that'd be the really the only marketing, I guess, obstacle, if you will.
Well, I guess getting there at the right time too. And it seems like, I guess the ultimate success is the night of, hey, did they make weight or not? But did you have some process of measuring during the cut or during the actual process of the success of your nutrition programs with your clients?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly wouldn't necessarily base success off of somebody making weight or not. I've been part of some weight cuts where I wasn't too proud to be a part of it, some that I've kind of been really against, but I'm like, hey, I'll be there to help you carry the cross, but just understand you're the one getting nailed up there type of deal. And I've also been part of some where, again, maybe they didn't make weight, but some of the obstacles that they've overcome throughout a camp or whatever it may be, that in itself is a success. I kind of see, again, every single client, every single situation, every camp, even if it's the same client, is, different wins and losses. If I could take a guy who has zero education and, they grew up eating cereal for breakfast, hot dogs for lunch, and pizza for dinner, and they thought that was normal, and I kind of just at least get them thinking that, hey, I need a little more protein. I think that's a big win, and again, hopefully they pass those lessons on to their kids and to other fighters in their gym. And I think that's much bigger of a win, as opposed to maybe I picked up that same client a week out and they were 40 pounds overweight. Like, dude, you weren't going to make weight anyways, but moving forward, you've been able to take your losses and learn from them, and continue to grow and build on them. So I would really say success is just based on more so off of, long-term changes, lifestyle changes, and understanding, and really, I guess, growing in terms of knowledge in a field that maybe they didn't have any knowledge in before.
Yeah, man. And, I think just lastly here, I totally love the fact that you're able to acknowledge like, hey, like I'm almost like ashamed to be a part of this, but in the end, you're there to support the athlete and whatever they're out to accomplish. So kudos to you there. But as the industry's growing, there's more athletes than ever coming into into MMA, boxing, jujitsu. What advice would you give to the professionals that are aspiring nutrition coaches that are looking to make their way and find their way to work in combat sports?
I would honestly say like the biggest thing that's helped me in terms of, at least in terms of coaching, is just understanding the demands of the sport and understanding the individual as well. Um, I don't think that you necessarily have to fight or train, but being around the guys and understanding how physically and mentally draining it might be to not only be in the gym, throwing punches and kicks, but then they've got to go to strength and conditioning. Then they have to go home and deal with their kids and, wife and cook dinner and clean up the house. And then on top of that, they have, that mental stress of, oh man, I have a guy who's going to stand across the cage and try to take my head off, in front of my parents, in front of my kids, and that could be a mental battle in itself. And I think what a lot of great coaches that are extremely smart, and they have they have great information to relay. They just don't have a great way to relay that information because they just don't understand the individual athlete or what they go through on a daily basis. So again, whether it's a combat sports coach, whether it's a strength and conditioning coach, whether it's a a baseball coach, right? I think that it's important that we actually take the time to listen and understand what's in front of us, and use what's given to us as, I guess, um as a way to coach.
Love that, man. Well, hey, I appreciate you taking the time today. If anyone's listening to this that's an athlete or is trying to get that personalized nutrition advice or coaching, how can people get in contact with you? What's the best way to follow your journey?
Yeah, so they can reach me on Instagram at pena.performance. They could shoot me an email at penaperformancenutrition.com. Or again, I mean, I work with a lot of guys all around. So if you know somebody that I work with, get my information from them, and I'd be happy to get connected.
Awesome, man. Well, I'll make sure to share all those links down below in the comments. And thanks again. Can't wait to see the next athlete you're working with. I know there are some big fights coming up, man, and wishing you a great rest of the day here.
Awesome, man. I appreciate it.